One of the things that I enjoy, and maybe not enjoy so much, is when you're working on stuff that you've never owned before and you're having to come up and figure out what the hell happened. In my case, as I have the transmission laying on the floor before I put it back into my truck, this has a few issues, but it also has a bit of an interesting history. So I discovered on this transmission, on the back side, is a sticker right here, which gives you details about things like the year and such of the transmission. And when I looked at that sticker for my truck, it said that that transmission was out of a 2004 truck. Mine's a 2007, so this transmission is 3 years older than what my truck is. So based off of that, I already know at some point the transmission has been replaced in this truck, and I don't know why, I don't care, but what I do care about is the aftermath. So I already know on this truck that I got to replace the output shaft seal, which I have a seal for that. But here's some of the other funny things, and I'm not sure how this didn't cause problems. So the first thing is, if you look down here, that's where your dipstick goes. And if you know these transmissions, you will know that something is missing from there. And that is mainly a rubber, one of these guys. It's a little rubber, you can call it a plug if you will, seal, O-ring, I don't know. And basically this goes into the transmission, and then your dipstick tube slides into this, and it basically prevents any fluid from coming out, or any dirt from getting in, or anything contaminating your transmission fluid. And if you look, you can see how dirty it is around that spot, so you know that this has been leaking, because where else would it come from? And if you look at the end of the dipstick tube, there is nothing there. So that is the first thing that I got to fix, which is just simply taking this little guy, I put a little bit of RTV around it, putting it down in that hole, and issue one is fixed. The second issue is the one that really has me kind of boggled and baffled, and I can't really tell you how this happened. I have a theory of what happened, but again, it's only a theory. So last year, I needed to drop the transmission crossmember, and in doing so, after reinstalling it, I discovered that the transmission was being tweaked probably about 1/4 of an inch towards the passenger side, putting unnecessary stress on the transmission and the rest of this stuff. Pulling this transmission out, I discovered two things on it. The first thing is, as you can see, this mount tab and this mount tab are broken. Luckily, I was able to get them and retrieve them. And the other thing is that the dowel pins for this, only the passenger side one was there, not the driver's side. So I realized that it still had bolts installed into it, but dowel pins help support the weight on the front. So having your two dowel pins is critical, and having the rear trans mount on is also critical. So I'm thinking between that rear mount being pushed that way, no dowel pin here to support it except for bolts, it basically caused a crack, and it basically caused a failure. So what I discovered was 5/8 bolts. I think these are about 2.5 inches long. They will fit into the hole. So what I'm going to do is cut the threads off here, cut the head off here, and use this part as a dowel pin. I have another one somewhere in my shop that I've already cut down that I started doing that on. But I got to find that so I can continue shaping that. For this, I don't really have a good way to fix it. Welding obviously is the best course of action, but I don't have a TIG welder. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just JB weld this, but I'm not JB welding it in the thinking of it's going to be supportive. I'm doing it in the sense where it will help keep dust, debris, or anything else from coming down the top side of this. Because on the bottom side, you got the dust shield, which keeps a good majority of it out there. But I want it up top so it keeps it out there. So my plan is throw some JB weld on that, get that sealed, put that seal in for the dipstick tube, and then we will make the dowel pins. So I'm going to track down my other bolt, and I'm going to start working on the dowel pins and going from there. And basically what I'm going to do, take the width of this where the dowel pin goes through, take the width of the engine block where it goes through, basically make that as the length of the dowel pin by just a little bit, so that, you know, it's not sticking out like this far. It's poking out just enough that I can get this thing on the dowel pins and push it on and keep a little bit sticking out. So that's where it's at. That's where I'm going to try and find that other one and move forward from there and bring you guys back when I'm working on those dowel pins. So continuing on, we are working on these guys. What are these, you ask? Well, that's the old dowel pin. And I was missing one. Amazon was going to be $30 for a set. I bought, where is a couple of these bolts, grade 8. And what I basically did, cut the head off, cut the threads off, left with the shank, 5/8. Then I cut it down to this big. And basically what I did is I measured the flange on the transmission, which came up to 0.734. Measured the truck is 0.936. We got 1.69 overall. And when I was doing some searching on the webs about these, it seems like a lot of people, or a lot of companies, are making them 1.875 inches long, which is about 0.185 or 3/16 of an inch longer. So I built this one here, and if we take the beveled end, which would be on the truck side or on the motor side, you can see that it just slips in like so. And let's see. And basically, if I measure everything out, you can see how much is sticking out there. So it'll be somewhere around there that it pokes out. And it's somewhere around this much. This will basically be this point. This is about 0.96, and this will be sitting inside the engine block, and basically this entire piece will be in the hole in the block. So normally if you were to look at the block, there'd only be about that much sticking through. So I'm going to make more in the block sticking through, which will support it better that way. And then it'd be about that much there poking out from the transmission. So that should work fairly well. So yeah, so basically I just cut everything down, smooth it out. I use my little disc sander here to square everything up. And then I basically take this, chuck it up in my drill press, and I got a file, and then so it gives me this bevel on it, this pretty nice bevel. So going to work on the next one, get that complete, and then once I have the two made, I'm gonna get them into the engine block, and then from there, it's a little cold out in my shop today, so I'm going to start on the JB Weld repair for those broken pieces. Again, I don't know if it's going to hold for long. I just wanted enough that I can get it up into the motor, up into the back installed, and put some bolts in it to just add as a cover. I do have a heat lamp there. So what I plan on doing is once I have it set and curing, I'm gonna put some heat on it just to try and keep it warm and from getting cold and setting up better. So continue on with my dowel pins and we'll bring you back when I'm done. Okay, so I didn't really show the process of doing this just because it's a lot of tedious back and forth and a little bit of grinding and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but sorry for the, let's see, that works better. So I've got it all JB welded in there, seamed all up. I got a flat bar here with the clamp to hold kind of a flat plane as much as I can. Clamp holding the one piece, clamp holding the second piece, vice grips holding it on this side. Then I've got a heat lamp here to basically keep this area warm so that it doesn't get too cold and cause issues with that. I got the it's a cold day in the shop. I got the dowel pins installed. Show you that here too. So you can see where are we here? The one dowel pin there installed. You can see the other dowel pin there installed. So that's the dowel pins installed. So now I'm basically just going to pack it up for the afternoon, let the heat lamp marinate that JB weld. Hopefully I can come out tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be dried and I can slam and get this freaking transmission back in. But as I just remembered, I got to replace some of the flex plate bolts. So I got that to deal with too. So almost there. Almost got this job done. Just a bunch of little fiddly bits that I got to deal with. So taking a break for now, getting some bolts, marinating some JB weld, and we'll be back at this tomorrow, maybe Monday. We'll see. So today marks the day that I'm finally putting the transmission back in. You can see, kind of, I guess. You can see that I've got this back in and I've got this one back on. I had those two under a heat lamp marinating for the last few days. The JB weld is probably more cooked than a cheap steak at a greasy spoon diner, but they seem to be holding okay. Like I said, it's not meant to be structural. It's just so that they're there so that I can either get it in and get the bolts in, and then if they can remain there, then it's just basically a way for dirt not to fall down inside here. So that's where that is. Tonight, I get to wrestle this behemoth back under the truck, which is going to be fun because I'm going to have to summon my inner, I don't know, Jeremiah Johnson, whoever someone strong is, Paul Bunyan, because I now, instead of having to pull this transmission out, I now have to push it under, and I've got my torsion bar underneath there that the bell housing has to slip under, so that guy ends up being like this to get underneath it. And then once this is under the truck, I've got my transmission jack that it has to go up on. So then I have to pull, wrestle, lift, whatever by myself to get it up there. Once it's up there, I can get it strapped in, and then the rest of the way is easy. But it's just getting that transmission back up onto that jack, which is going to be the fun part. I do not and will not be exposing you to the struggles of that, because that is probably going to be a 20 or 30 or more job getting that up there, but once it's up there, it won't be so bad. So once I've got it up there and I've got it back up in the truck, we'll probably talk a little bit further from there. I do have the new dowel pins in, so hopefully that helps get it in a little bit. That does remind me I still do need to clean this one out a little tiny bit. I've already put some sandpaper through this one and cleaned it up, but this one I want to put a little bit more time on that one to get that one cleaned up. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up, get this wrestled, get it on the jack, and get it up in the truck, and we'll see you For you in a few seconds. For me, it's gonna probably be a while before I'm finished. Well, I decided to quit being a deep freeze with the polar bears and the penguins up here in Canada. And for the last few days, I've been able to get out to the shop. You can see transmission is no longer on the ground, which means only one thing, and that's, well, it's reinstalled finally. Bit of a bear, just because I had to do the transmission or the dowel pins. So that took a bit. And then the other thing that took some time, oh, let me grab my light here, was that black seal in there. Getting it out. So that black seal back in there behind that snap ring was a bit of a chore to get it in. I later found out that if you need to do that output shaft seal on the 4L80, just buy yourself a camshaft tool. I had a V-band ring, if you will, and a piece of 2-inch pipe, and I got it in there, so that's good. So yeah, so it's ready to get the transmission put back in, or transfer case. Something I want to make note of is, for some reason, you can see a hole there and a hole up top, right there. Where is it? Sorry, there. So at the, I'm trying to do this while holding the light. My other light is dead again. So right there at the 12 o'clock and down there at the 6 are 2 holes, and then there's one over here at 3. The 3 o'clock is there for 2-wheel drive, so this is plugged, which it should be. What I don't understand, and I'd like to know if anyone else knows, why on the 4-wheel drive versions is that hole in the bottom, that hole in the top always open? This bottom hole will create a perpetual leak. Now granted, the transfer case adapter does bolt from here, or the transfer case connects to this, so there will never be any way any fluid can get out of here. As long as bolts remain tight, seal remains good, there's no issue. But it makes no sense why there would be a constant leak of the transmission fluid from inside out this hole to keep fluid constantly in that void. If you know, let me know. But as it is now, transmission is back in, and yeah, transmission's back in. I got the dipstick in, and now I just got to basically do up the rest of the buttoning, things like the wiring and a couple of small things like that. I still got to do the front seal on the transfer case so it doesn't puke out any more liquid. So once I have that done, I'll be able to get the transfer case into this, and then cross my fingers, as long as everything, and I'm going to knock on wood, every leak from the engine back to the end of the transfer case should be taken care of, and I should have no more issues with this. And I'm really praying that I have no more issues with this. I would like to think this will be the end of it, and that basically I can drive this truck for a while. Still gotta do the drive shaft, but aside from that, I want to be able to just drive this truck and just enjoy this truck. I haven't had a moment to enjoy it, and I really want to enjoy this truck. So I will let you guys know and keep you guys up to date if any further issues happen. But for now, the transmission is in, the seals, the leaks should all be sealed, and the truck should be good to drive until I have the next thing that needs to work on, which is gonna be the drive shaft. But for now, thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next time.